I want you to imagine this. It's 2 a.m. The world is silent except for the ticking of a clock and the echo of his own regrets. He reaches for his phone. No notifications. No message from you. The space where your voice used to live is now a hollow silence he can't fill. And it's in that moment, beneath the weight of the quiet, that he realizes you're not coming back the same woman who left. You see, a man doesn't miss you when you stop texting. He doesn't miss you when you block his number or even when you pack your bags. He misses you like crazy when he discovers the woman you've become without him. Let's talk about that. Before we begin, if this message resonates with your heart, take a moment to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Let's keep building this brave, honest, and healing community, one truth at a time. For so long, he thought you were just an like so many times, whatever comes up makes it difficult. Like so many times, whatever comes up makes it difficult. Whatever comes up makes it difficult. Like so many times, I thought the worst there, sitting still, quiet, waiting in the shadows of what used to be, maybe checking your phone, hoping for a message, maybe replaying old conversations in your head like a movie you didn't want to end. He told himself that if he ever wanted to come back, he'd still be exactly where he left you, emotionally parked, patiently hoping, still believing in some version of someday. But what he didn't see, what he couldn't see, was that something extraordinary was happening in the silence. You weren't waiting, you were becoming. See, healing doesn't always look poetic. It looks like crying in your car after holding it together all day. It looks like deleting his number and adding boundaries to your heart. It looks like slowly remembering how to hear your own voice again, after spending so long twisting it to keep the peace. It looks like taking yourself out to dinner and sitting there feeling awkward, but still showing up for your own company. It looks like making promises to yourself and finally keeping them. He misses you not just because you're gone. He misses you because you've changed in a way that he cannot access anymore. He thought your absence was a pause, but it was actually a rebirth. You weren't idle. You were evolving in the quiet, behind the scenes, in those sacred and unseen spaces of becoming. The late nights with your journal, the mornings where you woke up and tried again, the days where you didn't feel strong but you acted in strength anyway. And this is the part no one talks about. Healing will humble you, but it will also make you magnetic. Because when a woman starts showing up for herself in the places where she used to beg to be seen, something changes. You stop texting paragraphs trying to explain yourself. You stopped carrying the entire emotional weight of the relationship. You stopped dimming your brilliance to make someone else feel big enough to stay. You didn't become colder, you became clearer. And now, on the other side of that clarity, you walk differently, you speak differently. You no longer apologize for your standards. You no longer mistake anxiety for chemistry. You no longer confuse being chosen with being cherished. That's when he starts missing you. Not when you left, but when he realizes you didn't freeze in time. You outgrew the timeline he put you in. You see, the truth is, he doesn't miss the version of you who tolerated things you hated just to feel loved. He misses the version of himself that was allowed to live in the orbit of your strength, even when he didn't appreciate it. He misses what you gave freely while bleeding quietly. He misses what you offered wholeheartedly before you learned to hold something back for yourself. Because now, you are not who you were. And that's what he never saw coming. There's a moment he doesn't expect, a moment where his breath catches, not from heartbreak, but from recognition. Recognition of what he once held in his hands and let slip through his fingers. It happens quietly, maybe on social media, maybe through a mutual friend. Maybe he sees you across the room standing beside someone new, and suddenly he realizes someone else is looking at you the way he never did, with full presence, with curiosity, with admiration that isn't diluted by pride or distraction. And in that moment, something deep inside of him stirs. Not just longing, but regret. Not just jealousy, but loss. Because now, he sees you through someone else's eyes. Eyes that are lit up with appreciation. Eyes that notice how you tilt your head when you're truly listening. How you laugh with your whole body when something genuinely amuses you. How you move through a room with self-assurance and softness. Like you no longer need to be chosen to feel valuable. He sees someone else stand where he once stood, and suddenly it becomes undeniable. You were never ordinary. He just wasn't paying attention. It's not just your smile he misses. It's the way your presence made life feel a little safer, a little brighter, a little more rooted. It's the way your words used to wrap around his chaos like warm hands, steadying him when he didn't even know he was unraveling. But he took it for granted. He thought your love was endless, that your patience was unshakable, that no matter how many times he went silent, pulled back, or made you feel small, you'd always stay. What he didn't realize is that love like yours isn't loud. It's deep. And when someone else comes along with the capacity to truly see you, to listen without ego, to hold your truth without fear, your energy begins to shift. You stop longing to be recognized by the one who overlooked you, because suddenly you are seen. Fully, clearly, without needing to fight for it. And what he misses, truly misses, is the quiet intimacy of being loved by someone who made him feel like more than he believed he was. But now, that love has found a new place to land, and he can't follow. Because here's the brutal beauty of growth. Once you stop trying to prove your worth to someone who's blind to it, you create space for someone else who's been searching for a soul just like yours. He thought you were replaceable. He thought time would blur the edges of what you had. He thought you'd stay invisible long enough for him to come back when it was convenient. But now, watching you live, maybe even thrive, in a life that no longer includes him, he realizes something earth-shattering. You were never just a chapter. You were the whole damn story. And now that story is being told in a new voice, one that isn't his. Let that settle. Because when a man finally sees that your worth didn't disappear when he walked away, that it simply became more visible to someone else, it does something to him. It makes him miss you with a kind of ache he can't soothe. Because it's no longer about what he lost. It's about who you became once you stopped letting him define you. There's a very particular kind of ache that surfaces when a man realizes he was loved by a woman who didn't hold anything back. A woman who didn't wait until it was easy or convenient or perfect to open her heart. A woman who showed up, fully wore wounds and all, and said, "I'm here. I see you, and I choose you." And the truth that hits him hardest, long after you're gone, is this. You loved him with a bravery he didn't know how to return. Your love wasn't soft in the way the world romanticizes softness. It was strong, relentless. Devoted in the way that sometimes made your friends worry, in the way that had you questioning your own sanity on the nights you stayed. Forgave, held space, and kept hoping. You were in it. Not for control, not for games, but because your heart knew how to go all in. You didn't just love the version of him he showed to the world. You loved his fears, his flaws, his silence, his chaos. You loved through the uncertainty, through the emotional shutdowns, through the half-hearted answers and the guarded confessions. You loved in the face of distance and inconsistency. And maybe that's what haunts him now, because he starts to realize you weren't asking for perfection, you were asking for presence. You weren't asking for grand gestures, you were asking for honesty. You weren't asking him to change into someone he's not. You were asking him to show up as who he already was, without fear, without pretense, without the walls. You were willing to do the work, to have the hard conversations, to be uncomfortable if it meant you could both grow through it. And now that you're gone, He finally understands the weight of what you gave. You loved him like someone who knew heartbreak and still believed. You loved him like someone who had been betrayed but refused to punish the next person for someone else's wounds. You loved him like a woman who had every reason to close herself off, but instead opened the gates and said, "Here, I'll try again. This time, maybe you'll meet me here." But he didn't. Maybe he was scared. Maybe he was unready. Maybe he just didn't understand the sacredness of what he had until it was no longer at arm's length. And so now he sits in the echo of your love, in the space where your energy used to pour in. In the space where your energy used to pour in, you create the distance. You make him feel badly. He replays your voice, your kindness, your patience, the way you softened when he was cold, the way you stayed gentle when he became distant, the way you held his pain as if it were your own. But what he remembers most is the way you made him feel safe. Not because you never asked him to grow, but because you believed he could. That belief, that deep, unshakable belief you held in him, that's what he misses the most. Because now he has to look in the mirror without the lens of your love. Now he has to find that belief in himself, and it doesn't come as easily. The love you gave was never casual. It was never performative. It was soul deep. And that kind of love leaves fingerprints on a man's spirit. It's not something he can forget. It's not something he'll find again easily. Because women who love with that kind of fearless devotion are rare. And when he finally understands that your love was a reflection of your own strength, not his worthiness, it hits him. He didn't just lose love. He lost a mirror that showed him the man he could have been, had he been brave enough to meet you there. There comes a moment, often much later, when a man finally sees the truth that used to stare him in the face every single day. It's a quiet but soul-shaking realization, and it doesn't come wrapped in drama or grand epiphany. It sneaks up on him, in the middle of a regular day, in the smallest moment, when he sees your smile in an old photo, when a song plays that once made you sway a little slower, when someone asks how you're doing and he has no answer. That's when the truth hits him in full force. You never needed him. You chose him. And there's a world of difference between being needed and being chosen. He starts to see it clearly now, the way you stood beside him, not behind him. And the way you stood beside him, not behind him. The way you never asked him to complete you, only to respect you. The way you brought your own table, your own dreams, your own full life, and still made room for him in it. He mistook your softness for dependence. He thought your kindness came from fragility. But now he sees your love wasn't a lifeline. It was a gift. And he didn't know how to hold it. You were never asking him to be your anchor. You were your own foundation. What you wanted, what you deserved, was a partner. Someone who can meet you eye to eye, shoulder to shoulder, heart to heart. Someone who understood that loving you wasn't about fixing you or saving you. It was about standing next to someone already whole. You didn't ask for permission to grow. You just did it. You built your peace. You carved out your purpose. You nurtured your spirit, and still you made room in your already full hands to carry love. You held space for his fears. You stayed on the days he was distant. You forgave what others would have walked away from. Not because you were weak, but because you believed in connection, because you knew love was worth the risk. And the deepest sting, the part he can't quite shake, is that your love came with freedom. You never tried to own him. You never tried to control or cage him. You gave him freedom to grow, to heal, to be, but he didn't know what to do with that kind of grace. He assumed somewhere in the corners of his ego that you needed him, that he was the center of your world, that maybe you stayed because you couldn't stand on your own. And now, as he watches you thrive, shine, move forward with clarity and strength, he understands you never needed him to feel whole. You never waited for his approval to feel worthy. You weren't fragile. You were fierce, quietly fierce. And now that your light no longer pours in his direction, he's left sitting in the shadows of all the things he never saw clearly. He misses the version of you who gave without conditions. He misses the version of himself who felt powerful because you believed in him. But what hurts the most is realizing that you didn't stay because you had to. You stayed because you chose to. And the moment that choice no longer aligned with your peace, you let go. That kind of strength, it stays with a man. Because he knows now that your love was never about what you could take from him. It was always about what you were willing to give without losing yourself. And that's the kind of love that changes people, even if they're too late to keep it. This is the part that always catches him off guard. It's not when you block his number, not when you pack your things, not even when you stop replying. No, those things scream hurt, and he expects that. He knows what it looks like when someone is still emotionally tied to him, even through anger, even through silence. But the part that shakes him, that knocks the air out of his chest, is when he sees you at peace, really at peace, when there's no tension in your shoulders anymore, no unfinished sentences, no pain sitting behind your eyes, just calm. He doesn't know how to process that, because peace to him means detachment, and detachment means finality. You're not bitter. You're not resentful. You've forgiven him, not for his sake, but for your own. You've dropped the weight. You've exhaled the ache. You've made space for something softer, something cleaner, something true. And suddenly he realizes he's not just missing the woman who loved him. He's missing the woman who no longer carries his name in her prayers, the woman who no longer checks his page, the woman who no longer wonders, what if? Because you've made peace with the ending. And that, to a man who once had a piece of your soul, feels like the most profound goodbye. Forgiveness is a strange thing. It doesn't always come with closure. It doesn't come with one final conversation or a dramatic moment of mutual understanding. Sometimes it's a quiet decision you make when you realize your healing matters more than your history. And that's what he sees now. You're healed. Not perfect, not untouched, but whole in a way that no longer bends toward him. And that truth is irreversible. He thought he'd always have a way back, that somehow, eventually, the door would still be cracked open, that if he ever changed, if he ever figured himself out, you'd still be there. Maybe tired, maybe bruised, but waiting. But you're not. You're not waiting. You're walking. You're building a life that doesn't include his shadow. And in that realization, the grief hits different. Because it's no longer about missing you. It's about knowing he can't reach you anymore. Not because you've become cold, but because you've become free. He remembers now how you used to try to explain what you needed, how you hoped he'd meet you halfway, how you held on even when your hands were shaking. And now, you don't even flinch at his name. It's not indifference, it's liberation. That's what he misses. Not the woman who gave him 1,000 second chances, not the woman who cried on the bathroom floor while pretending she was okay, but the woman who picked herself up, who stitched herself back together, who smiled again and meant it. He misses the woman who no longer needs to be missed because she has remembered how to belong to herself. And that's the kind of loss that echoes. Not loudly, not immediately, but endlessly. Because once a man sees you healed, once he realizes your light no longer flickers for him, once he understands your love has transformed into wisdom, he doesn't just miss who you were, he mourns who you've become without him. So if you're listening right now, aching over someone who let you go, please hear me. Your love was never wasted. It was a seed. In you. You are not too much. You are deep. You are not hard to love. You love hard. You are not replaceable. You are rare. And if someone misses you now that you're whole, that's not your cue to shrink. It's your confirmation to soar. Let them miss the woman who rose. Let them miss the version of you they never had the courage to cherish. But don't you dare shrink back just to be seen again, because the right people, they won't miss you after you're gone. They'll recognize you while you're still standing in front of them. If this moves something in you, take a moment to breathe into the truth of your own worth. Then like, comment, and share this with someone who needs the reminder. Not because we're trying to go viral, but because every woman who is learning to love herself again deserves to know she's not alone. We rise together. Welcome to Motivational Humanity, where healing becomes power. And you're just getting started.